There is a pattern running through your life right now, and the strange part is you already know what it is. You have felt it in the moments when you said yes but meant no. You have felt it when you smiled through frustration just to keep the peace. You have noticed it in the quiet ache that comes after bending yourself into shapes that were never yours to hold. And if you clicked on this video, it is because something inside of you is finally ready to name it. The people-pleasing pattern that has followed you for years, maybe even decades, is not a flaw. It is not weakness, but it has cost you more than you realize, and the energy surrounding your sign right now is telling you enough. This is the moment where things begin to shift, but only if you stay with me through every single section of what I am about to share. Because what is coming is not just advice, it is a mirror. And some of what you see in that mirror will surprise you, some of it will sting, but all of it will set something free inside of you that has been waiting for permission to finally breathe. So settle in, take a slow breath, and give yourself the next few minutes. You have spent a lifetime giving your attention to everyone else. Right now, this time is yours. Tip 1. You have been confusing kindness with compliance, and it is draining you more than you know. There is a difference between being kind and being compliant, and for most of your life, you have blurred the line between the two so thoroughly that you can barely tell them apart anymore. Kindness is a choice you make from a place of fullness. It comes from genuine care, from warmth, from wanting to offer something good to another person because it feels right. Compliance, on the other hand, comes from fear. It comes from the worry that if you do not bend, if you do not accommodate, if you do not smooth every rough edge in every room you enter, people will leave. People will be disappointed. People will see you as difficult. And that fear has been running the show for far too long. Think about the last time someone asked you for something and you immediately said yes, even though your body tightened, even though your stomach dropped, even though a quiet voice inside of you whispered, "I really do not want to do this." That moment, that split second where your true feeling got overridden by the need to be agreeable, is where the damage happens. Not in big dramatic ways, not in explosions or breakdowns, but in slow, invisible erosion. Every time you override your own instinct to keep someone else comfortable, you lose a small piece of trust in yourself. And over time, those small pieces add up until you wake up one morning and realize you do not even know what you actually want anymore. This is not about becoming cold. This is not about shutting people out or refusing to help. It is about learning the difference between offering your kindness freely and surrendering it because you are afraid of what happens if you do not. One fills you up, the other hollows you out, and you have been living in the hollowed out version for long enough to know exactly what I am talking about. The energy around your sign right now is pushing you to recognize this distinction. It is not subtle. You are feeling it in your relationships, in your work, in the way certain interactions leave you feeling exhausted even when nothing particularly stressful happened. That exhaustion is not random. It is the result of years of compliance disguised as kindness, and your system is telling you it cannot carry that weight anymore. Here is what I want you to understand. You can be the most generous, the most thoughtful, the most caring person in any room, and still say no. Still set a limit. Still choose yourself first in moments where your old pattern would have you choosing everyone else. Kindness does not require you to disappear. It never did. But compliance told you otherwise, and you believed it because it felt safer than the alternative. The alternative, by the way, is not conflict. It is not rejection. It is not loneliness. The alternative is freedom. The kind of freedom that comes when you stop performing generosity and start actually living it, on your own terms, in your own timing, without the constant pressure to prove that you are good enough by giving yourself away. That shift is available to you right now, and everything that follows in this video is designed to help you step into it. But this first recognition, this moment of seeing the difference between kindness and compliance, this is the foundation. Without it, nothing else lands the way it needs to. Tip 2. The harmony you have been chasing in others already exists inside of you. You have spent so much energy trying to create balance in the world around you that you have completely neglected the balance within yourself. This is one of the most painful patterns connected to your sign, because it operates so quietly. It does not announce itself. It simply runs in the background like a program you forgot you installed, constantly adjusting your behavior, your words, your emotions, all in service of making sure everything outside of you feels smooth and peaceful. But here is the truth that nobody tells you. The harmony you have been chasing in your relationships, in your friendships, in your family dynamics, in every social interaction you have ever carefully navigated, It was never supposed to come from out there. It was always supposed to start in here, inside of you, in the relationship you have with yourself. And that relationship has been neglected for so long that it barely has a pulse. Think about how much time you spend reading other people, anticipating their moods, adjusting your tone to match their energy, choosing your words carefully so that no one feels uncomfortable. Now think about how much time you spend doing that same thing for yourself, checking in with your own mood, honoring your own energy, choosing words that reflect what you actually feel instead of what feels safest. The gap between those two is enormous, and it is the source of almost every frustration you have been carrying. You are not responsible for the emotional climate of every room you walk into. That is a belief that was handed to you early, probably in childhood, and you accepted it because it made you feel useful. It made you feel needed. And for a long time, that sense of being needed was enough to fill the emptiness that came from not being truly seen. But being needed and being valued are not the same thing. Being needed means people rely on you to manage their comfort. Being valued means people appreciate who you actually are, not just what you do for them. The shift that is happening right now in your energy is asking you to stop managing and start existing. To stop curating every interaction and start showing up as the unfiltered, imperfect, sometimes messy version of yourself that you have been hiding behind all of that careful diplomacy. And I know that sounds terrifying. I know the thought of letting people see you without the performance feels like standing in the middle of a stage with no script. But that vulnerability, that rawness, is exactly where the real harmony lives. When you stop trying to create peace around you and start cultivating peace within you, something remarkable happens. The right people draw closer, the wrong ones fall away, and you stop feeling like you are constantly performing a role in a play you never auditioned for. You start feeling like yourself, maybe for the first time in years, maybe for the first time ever. This inner harmony is not something you need to build from scratch. It is already there, buried under decades of people-pleasing and over-accommodating and saying yes when you meant no. All you need to do is stop piling things on top of it. Stop covering it with obligations and expectations and the constant need to be liked. Let it breathe. Let it surface. And watch what happens when you finally give yourself the same grace you have been giving everyone else your entire life. If what you're hearing feels accurate, imagine what could happen if you applied this energy intentionally for 21 consecutive days. That's exactly what the 21-day program in the pinned comment is built for. Daily guidance, focused direction, and real momentum. If you're tired of staying in the same cycle, this is your structure. Tip 3. Your fear of being disliked has made you invisible in your own life. This one is going to be uncomfortable, but you need to hear it. Somewhere along the way, you decided that being disliked was the worst thing that could happen to you. Not being hurt, not being betrayed, not being abandoned, being disliked. And that single fear has shaped more of your decisions than you want to admit. It has determined who you spend time with, what you say in conversations, how you dress, what opinions you share, what dreams you pursue, and what dreams you quietly bury because they might make someone else uncomfortable. The fear of being disliked is not just about wanting to be popular. It goes deeper than that. For you, being disliked feels like a fundamental rejection of who you are. It feels personal in a way that is almost physical. When someone does not respond to your message quickly enough, when someone gives you a look you cannot read, when someone chooses another person over you for something, your whole system goes on alert. Not because the situation is dangerous, but because your pattern tells you that any sign of disapproval means you have failed. But here is what that pattern never tells you. By trying so hard to avoid being disliked, you have made yourself invisible. Not literally, of course. People see you. People know your name. People invite you to things. But the version of you they see is not the real one. It is the curated, careful, people-pleasing version that knows exactly what to say, exactly how to act, exactly how to make everyone feel comfortable. And while that version is pleasant and agreeable and easy to be around, it is not you. Not fully. Not honestly. The real you has opinions that might ruffle feathers. The real you has needs that might inconvenience someone. The real you has boundaries that might make certain people pull away. And that is exactly why you have kept the real you locked away, because letting that version out means risking the one thing you fear most. But think about what you have gained by keeping yourself hidden. Safety, maybe. Predictability, sure. But also loneliness. A deep, quiet loneliness that comes from being surrounded by people who love a version of you that does not fully exist. That loneliness is not something you talk about because how do you explain feeling alone when you are never actually alone? How do you explain that ache when people would look at your life and see someone who is well-liked, well-connected, easy to get along with? They would never guess that behind all of that warmth and accommodation is a person who is starving to be truly known. But you know, you feel it every single day. The energy moving through your sign right now is cracking that pattern open, whether you are ready for it or not. You are going to start feeling the cost of invisibility more sharply. You are going to notice the moments when you shrink yourself, and instead of that shrinking feeling familiar and comfortable, it is going to feel unbearable. That discomfort is not a punishment. It is a signal. It is your deeper self telling you that the time for hiding is over, and the time for being seen, really seen for all of who you are, has finally arrived. Tip 4. You have been absorbing other people's emotions and calling it empathy. You pride yourself on being empathetic, on being the person who can walk into a room and immediately sense the mood, immediately know who is upset, who is anxious, who is pretending to be fine. And that ability is real. It is a genuine gift that allows you to connect with people on a level that most never reach. But somewhere along the way, you crossed a line that you did not even notice, and that gift became a burden. Because there is a difference between sensing someone's emotions and absorbing them. And you have been absorbing for so long that you do not know where their feelings end and yours begin. Think about the last time you spent time with someone who was stressed or upset. By the time you left that interaction, how did you feel? Did you feel drained? Did you feel heavy? Did you carry their mood with you for hours, maybe even days, turning it over in your mind, wondering if you did enough, wondering if you said the right thing, wondering if they were okay? That is not empathy. That is emotional absorption. And it is one of the most exhausting patterns your sign carries. Empathy says, I see your pain and I care about you. Absorption says, I see your pain and I will carry it for you. One keeps you connected while maintaining your own center. The other pulls you completely off balance and leaves you feeling like you are drowning in feelings that were never yours to hold. And the worst part is, the people around you have gotten used to it. They have come to expect that you will carry their emotional weight because you always have. You have trained them to lean on you in ways that are not sustainable, and now you are buried under a pile of feelings that do not belong to you. This is not about becoming cold or detached. This is not about shutting down your ability to feel for others. It is about learning to witness without absorbing, to care without caring, to hold space for someone's pain without climbing into it with them and making it your own. That distinction might sound small, but it changes everything. Because when you stop absorbing, you suddenly have energy again. You suddenly have emotional space again. You suddenly have the capacity to actually help people instead of just drowning alongside them. The pattern of absorption is connected to your need to be needed. When you carry someone's emotions, you become essential to them. They cannot process without you. They cannot cope without you. And that sense of being essential fills a void that your own neglected self-worth has created. But it is a false filling. It is like eating something that tastes satisfying but provides no nourishment. You feel full in the moment, but you are slowly starving underneath. Your energy right now is asking you to release what you have been carrying. Not all at once, not in some dramatic gesture, but gradually. One conversation at a time. One interaction at a time. Learning to say, I hear you and I care about you, but this is yours to hold. Learning to walk away from a heavy conversation and consciously choose not to take it with you. Learning to check in with yourself and ask, is this feeling mine? And if the answer is no, setting it down like it was never yours to begin with. Because it was not. Tip 5. You have been making decisions based on who you might disappoint instead of what you actually want. There is a question you should be asking yourself every time you face a choice, and it is simple. What do I want? Not what would make everyone happy. Not what would cause the least friction. Not what would keep things smooth and predictable and safe. Just what do I want? And if you are being honest with yourself, you will admit that you almost never ask that question. Because asking what you want means acknowledging that your wants might conflict with someone else's expectations. And for you, that conflict has always felt like a threat. Every decision you make runs through a filter that has nothing to do with your own desires. That filter asks, who will be upset if I choose this? Who will feel left out? Who will think less of me? Who will be inconvenienced? And by the time you have run every possible outcome through that filter, your own preference has been completely buried. You end up choosing the option that causes the least disturbance, even when that option leaves you feeling empty, resentful, or quietly furious at yourself for once again putting everyone else first. This pattern shows up in the smallest choices and the biggest ones. It shows up when you let someone else pick the restaurant even though you had a craving. It shows up when you take on extra work because saying no might make a colleague feel unsupported. It shows up when you stay in relationships long past their expiration date because leaving would cause disappointment. It shows up when you choose a career path, a living situation, a daily routine based entirely on what keeps the people around you comfortable, while your own comfort is an afterthought. And the thing is, you are so practiced at this that you do not even realize you are doing it most of the time. It has become automatic. The question what would make everyone happy runs so fast and so silently that by the time you become aware of it, you have already made the choice, already committed, already said yes. And then the slow burn of resentment begins, that familiar feeling of having given away something you needed, having traded your own fulfillment for someone else's approval. But here is what I want you to sit with. Every time you make a decision based on avoiding someone else's disappointment, you are choosing to disappoint yourself. And you have been choosing to disappoint yourself so consistently for so long that it does not even register as a loss anymore. Just feels normal. Just feels like who you are. But it is not who you are. It is a survival strategy you developed to navigate a world that taught you that your worth was measured by how few problems you caused. The energy shifting around your sign is disrupting that survival strategy. You are going to start feeling the weight of self-abandonment more clearly. The small compromises that used to feel harmless are going to start feeling suffocating. And that is not because things are getting worse. It is because you are waking up. You are starting to see the pattern for what it is. And once you see it, you cannot unsee it. The only question is what you do next. And the answer is simpler than you think. You start asking, what do I want? And then you let that answer guide you, even when it means someone else has to sit with their own disappointment for a change. Tip 6. Your need for external validation has become a cage you built around yourself. You are addicted to approval, and I say that without judgment because it is a pattern that was never really your choice. It was wired into you early, reinforced by every experience that taught you that love was conditional, that acceptance was earned, that your value as a person was determined by how well you performed for others. And now, decades later, that wiring still runs your life in ways you probably do not fully see. Think about how you feel when someone compliments you. There is a rush, a warmth, a momentary sense of, okay, I am doing this right. Now think about how you feel when someone criticizes you. Even gently, even constructively. The bottom drops out. Your chest tightens. You replay the words over and over, searching for what you did wrong, wondering how you can fix it, wondering what it means about you as a person. The gap between those two reactions tells you everything you need to know about how dependent you have become on external validation. This dependency is a cage, and the cruelest part is that you are the one who built it. Every time you adjusted yourself to earn someone's approval, you added another bar. Every time you suppressed your real feelings to maintain someone's good opinion, you locked the door a little tighter. Every time you defined your worth by how others responded to you, you threw away the key. And now you are standing inside this structure you created, wondering why you feel so trapped, wondering why success never feels like enough, wondering why love never quite reaches the deep place inside you that aches. External validation is not inherently bad. Feels good to be appreciated. Feels good to be seen. But when it becomes the primary source of your self-worth, it turns you into a prisoner of other people's opinions. And other people's opinions are unreliable. They shift with moods, with circumstances, with their own unresolved issues that have nothing to do with you. Building your sense of self on something that unstable is like building a house on sand, and then being shocked when it shifts beneath your feet. The alternative is internal validation, and I know that sounds abstract, so let me make it concrete. Internal validation means looking at yourself in the mirror and knowing that you are enough, not because someone told you, not because you achieved something, not because you made everyone happy today, but simply because you exist. It means trusting your own judgment, even when others disagree. It means feeling settled in who you are even when no one is watching, even when no one is clapping, even when the room is quiet and you are alone with yourself. That kind of self-assurance does not develop overnight. It is built through 1,000 small acts of choosing yourself. It is built every time you honor your own feelings instead of dismissing them. Every time you make a decision based on your values instead of someone else's expectations. Every time you sit with discomfort instead of rushing to fix it by seeking reassurance. It is a practice, not a destination, and the energy around your sign right now is giving you the perfect conditions to begin. You do not need to dismantle the cage all at once. You just need to stop adding bars. The next time you catch yourself changing your behavior to earn approval, pause. Notice what you are doing. Ask yourself what would happen if you just stayed as you are, without adjusting, without performing, without trying to be what someone else wants you to be. The answer might surprise you, because most of the time the rejection you fear never comes. And even when it does, you discover something remarkable. You survive it. And on the other side of that survival is a freedom you have been craving your entire life. Tip 7. You have been avoiding conflict so long that you have forgotten how to fight for yourself. Conflict is not your enemy, but you have been treating it like one for as long as you can remember. The moment tension rises in a conversation, your entire system shifts into damage control mode. Smooth it over. De-escalate. Find the compromise. Say whatever needs to be said to bring things back to equilibrium. And on the surface, this looks like emotional intelligence. It looks like maturity. It looks like grace under pressure. But underneath that polished exterior, something else is happening. You are swallowing your truth to preserve the peace. And every time you do, a part of you goes silent. That silence accumulates. It does not just disappear because you ignored it. It sits in your body, in your chest, in your jaw, in the tension you carry in your shoulders. It shows up as headaches, as fatigue, as that vague sense of unease that follows you through your days without any obvious cause. Your body is keeping score of every conflict you avoided, every truth you swallowed, every moment you chose peace over honesty. And the bill is coming due. Here is the thing about conflict that nobody taught you. Healthy conflict is not destruction. It is not the end of a relationship. It is not proof that something is broken. Healthy conflict is actually a sign that a relationship is strong enough to hold disagreement. It is a sign that both people feel safe enough to be honest, even when that honesty is uncomfortable. The relationships where there is never any conflict are not the healthiest ones. They are often the ones where someone, and in your case it is almost always you, is constantly suppressing their real feelings to keep the surface calm. You have become so skilled at avoiding conflict that you have lost the ability to fight for yourself in moments when fighting is exactly what is needed. When someone crosses a boundary, you explain it away. When someone takes advantage of your generosity, you convince yourself they did not mean it. When someone speaks to you in a way that feels dismissive or disrespectful, you swallow your response and redirect the conversation to something lighter. And every single time, you teach that person that your boundaries do not exist. You teach them that you will absorb whatever they give you without pushing back. And then you wonder why people keep treating you the same way. The pattern of conflict avoidance is directly connected to the people-pleasing pattern you are here to break. They feed each other. You please people to avoid conflict, and you avoid conflict to keep pleasing people. It is a loop with no exit, and it has been running so long that it feels like the only way to operate. But it is not. There is another way, and it starts with the willingness to be uncomfortable. Being uncomfortable in a conversation where you are standing your ground is not the same as being in danger. Your nervous system might not know the difference because it has been trained to treat any tension as a threat. But your conscious mind can learn to override that reaction. You can learn to sit in the discomfort of someone being upset with you without rushing to fix it. You can learn to say what you actually think without cushioning it so heavily that the meaning gets lost. You can learn to hold your position even when the other person pushes back, even when they get quiet, even when they show disappointment. This is not about becoming combative or aggressive. It is about reclaiming your voice in moments where you have historically given it away. It is about trusting that the people who truly care about you can handle your honesty, and that the ones who cannot were never holding space for the real you anyway. The energy around your sign is amplifying your courage right now. Use it. The next conversation where you feel the urge to smooth things over, try something different. Try telling the truth. Not harshly, not cruelly, but clearly, and see what happens when you stop swallowing yourself whole. Tip 8. You have been so focused on being fair to everyone else that you have been deeply unfair to yourself. Fairness matters to you in a way that most people do not understand. You carry an internal scale that is constantly weighing, measuring, assessing whether things are balanced, whether everyone is getting their due, whether justice is being served. And that commitment to fairness is admirable. It is one of the most beautiful qualities connected to your sign. But there is a blind spot in your fairness, and it is enormous. You extend it to everyone except yourself. Think about how you handle disagreements. You always try to see both sides. You always try to understand the other person's perspective. You bend over backward to make sure no one feels treated unfairly. But when it comes to your own needs, your own boundaries, your own right to take up space, suddenly fairness does not apply. Suddenly it is okay for you to get the short end. Suddenly it is acceptable for you to sacrifice your comfort, your time, your energy, your peace of mind, as long as everyone else walks away feeling balanced. This double standard has been operating so quietly that you probably never named it. But it is there in every interaction where you give more than you receive and call it generosity. It is there in every relationship where you do the emotional heavy lifting and tell yourself it is just who you are. It is there in every situation where you advocate fiercely for someone else's rights while quietly abandoning your own. You are the champion of fairness for every single person in your life except the one who needs it most. And the painful part is that this imbalance does not go unnoticed by your deeper self. Even if your conscious mind has rationalized it, even if you have convinced yourself that self-sacrifice is noble, your body knows. Your emotions know. That restlessness you feel, that vague dissatisfaction that lingers even when things are going well. That is your inner scale telling you that the balance is off, that you have been giving away too much and receiving too little, that the fairness you demand for others needs to be applied to your own life with the same rigor and the same conviction. Applying fairness to yourself means questioning the agreements you have made that only serve other people. It means looking at your daily life and honestly assessing whether the distribution of effort, of care, of attention, of energy is actually equal. It means being willing to say, "This is not fair to me," without immediately feeling guilty for having needs. It means treating your own well-being as non-negotiable, the same way you treat other people's well-being. This is not selfish. And I know that word is the one you fear most, because your entire identity has been built around being the opposite of selfish. But protecting yourself is not selfish. Honoring your needs is not selfish. Demanding the same fairness you give to others is not selfish. It is necessary. It is overdue. And the energy moving through your sign right now is making it impossible to ignore any longer. You have been the most generous person in rooms full of people who never once asked if you needed anything in return. You have been the one holding everything together while quietly falling apart. You have been fair to the world and brutal to yourself. And that ends now. Not because the world changed, but because you are finally ready to include yourself in the equation. And when you do, everything shifts. Everything rebalances. Everything starts to feel the way it was always supposed to feel, before you decided that your needs were less important than everyone else's. Some people watch, others transform. If you want to be in the second group, the 21-day guide in the pinned comment gives you a clear step-by-step process aligned with your sign. This isn't about waiting, it's about moving. Tip 9. The relationships you are most afraid to lose are often the ones keeping you stuck. There are people in your life right now that you hold on to with everything you have, not because those relationships are nourishing you, but because the thought of losing them terrifies you. These might be friendships that have been part of your life for decades. They might be family connections that feel obligatory. They might be romantic partnerships that stopped growing years ago but feel too woven into your identity to release. Whatever form they take, these relationships share one thing in common. They require you to be less than who you are. You know which ones I am talking about. The ones where you carefully monitor what you say. The ones where you shrink your enthusiasm because it might make the other person uncomfortable. The ones where you downplay your success, your growth, your evolution because the person across from you is not evolving and your growth feels like a threat to the dynamic. These relationships are not anchors. They are chains. And you have been so afraid of the pain of releasing them that you have chosen the slow, grinding pain of staying. This is where your people-pleasing pattern becomes most dangerous, because it does not just cost you energy or time, it costs you your future. Every relationship that requires you to stay small is a relationship that blocks your expansion. Every connection that punishes your growth is a connection that keeps you tethered to an old version of yourself that you have already outgrown. And the longer you stay, the harder it becomes to leave, because the fear of loss grows heavier with every passing year. But here is what the fear does not tell you. Releasing a relationship that no longer serves you does not mean you stop caring about the person. It does not mean you hate them. It does not mean the time you shared was wasted. It means you have reached a point where the cost of staying exceeds the cost of leaving. And that is not a failure. That is growth. That is maturity. That is the natural result of a person who is finally choosing to honor their own evolution instead of stunting it for someone else's comfort. You will know which relationships I am describing because they are the ones that leave you feeling exhausted. Not the kind of exhaustion that comes from a deep, meaningful conversation. The kind that comes from performing, from pretending, from carefully editing yourself so that you fit into a space that was designed for a smaller version of who you are. That exhaustion is your soul's way of telling you that something needs to change, and the change is not about fixing the other person. It is about giving yourself permission to move forward, even if they do not come with you. The energy around your sign right now is illuminating these dynamics with uncomfortable clarity. You are starting to see the imbalance in certain connections. You are starting to notice how much of yourself you abandon to maintain them. And that awareness, while painful, is the first step toward freedom. Because you cannot change what you refuse to see. And for a long time you refused to see this. You told yourself the relationship was fine. You told yourself you were being too sensitive. You told yourself that loyalty meant staying no matter what. But loyalty without boundaries is not loyalty. It is self-abandonment. And you have been abandoning yourself in the name of loyalty for far too long. The people who are meant to walk with you into your next chapter will not require you to shrink. They will celebrate your expansion. They will meet your growth with their own. They will hold space for the full, unedited, unapologetic version of who you are becoming. And you deserve those people. But you will not find them, or rather, they will not find you until you create space by releasing the ones who cannot hold you anymore. Tip 10. You have been waiting for permission to live your life on your own terms. There is a moment that is coming for you, and it might be today, it might be this week, it might be right now as you are listening to these words. A moment where you finally realize that you do not need permission. Not from your family, not from your friends, not from your partner, not from society, not from anyone. You have been waiting for someone to look at you and say, it is okay for you to be yourself now. It is okay for you to want what you want. It is okay for you to take up space. And that person never came because they were never supposed to. That permission was always yours to give. This is perhaps the deepest layer of the people-pleasing pattern. It is not just about saying yes too often or avoiding conflict or absorbing other people's emotions. At its core, it is about believing that you need external authorization to exist as your full self. That somewhere out there is a person or a circumstance or a sign that will finally make it acceptable for you to stop performing and start living. And you have been waiting for that sign for so long that waiting has become your default state. But waiting is not neutral. It is not a passive, harmless holding pattern. Waiting is active self-denial. Every day you spend waiting for permission is a day you spend telling yourself that you are not enough on your own. That your own knowing, your own desires, your own instincts are not sufficient grounds for action. That you need someone else to validate your choices before they become real. And that belief, that quiet, persistent belief, has stolen more from you than any person ever could. The truth is that you have always known what you wanted. You have always known what felt right and what felt wrong. You have always known when a relationship was draining you, when a situation was beneath you, when a compromise was actually a surrender. You knew. But knowing was not enough because you did not trust yourself enough to act on that knowing without someone else confirming it first. This is the cycle that breaks right now. Not tomorrow. Not next month. Not when conditions are perfect. Right now. Because conditions will never be perfect, and if you keep waiting for them to be, you will spend the rest of your life on hold. The energy surrounding your sign is not waiting for you to be ready. It is moving. It is shifting. It is creating openings and opportunities that have expiration dates. And if you stay in your waiting pattern, those openings will close, and you will be left wondering what could have been if you had just given yourself the permission you were waiting for someone else to offer. Giving yourself permission does not mean being reckless. It does not mean ignoring consequences or acting without thought. It means trusting that you are a capable, intelligent, deeply intuitive person who has earned the right to make their own choices. It means honoring the decades of experience and wisdom you have accumulated by actually applying them to your own life, instead of only using them to help everyone else with theirs. It means stepping out of the audience of your own existence and onto the stage, where you have always belonged but were too afraid to stand. You do not need anyone's blessing. You do not need a consensus. You do not need every person in your life to understand or approve. You need your own conviction, your own courage, your own willingness to say, "This is my life and I am going to live it according to what I know is true." That is the only permission that matters, and it has been inside you this entire time, waiting for you to claim it. Tip 11. The version of you that emerges after people-pleasing is more loved, not less. The fear that drives all of this, every pattern we have talked about, every habit you have been carrying, every moment you have suppressed yourself to keep others comfortable, it all comes back to one belief. If I stop performing, I will be alone. If I show the real me, people will leave. If I stop being what everyone needs, no one will want me. That belief is the engine of your people-pleasing, and it is time to dismantle it, because it is the single greatest lie you have ever told yourself. The truth is the exact opposite of what you fear. The version of you that exists on the other side of people-pleasing is not less lovable. It is more. Not because you become perfect, not because you become easier to deal with, but because you become real. And real is magnetic in a way that performance can never be. People can feel the difference between someone who is genuinely present and someone who is carefully managing every interaction. They might not be able to name it, but they feel it. And they are drawn to authenticity like a compass is drawn to north. Think about the people in your life that you admire most. The ones who seem grounded, who speak their minds, who do not apologize for taking up space. Do you resent them for their directness? Do you dislike them because they have boundaries? No. You are drawn to them. You respect them. You wish you could be more like them. And here is the revelation: other people feel exactly the same way about those qualities. The very things you are afraid to show, your opinions, your needs, your limits, your honest emotions. Those are the things that make people trust you. Those are the things that create real intimacy instead of the carefully managed proximity you have been settling for. When you stop people-pleasing, you do not lose everyone. You lose the people who were only there for what you could give them. And while that loss might sting initially, what it reveals is that those connections were transactional, not relational. They were based on your output, not your presence. And a life full of transactional relationships is a life that feels crowded but empty, surrounded but alone. What replaces those lost connections is something qualitatively different. It is smaller, maybe, less populated, but infinitely deeper. The people who stay when you stop performing are the people who actually love you. Not the version of you that always says yes. Not the version that never causes friction. Not the version that absorbs everyone's pain and asks for nothing in return. They love the messy, complicated, imperfect, beautifully flawed human being that you actually are. And being loved for who you really are, even by a handful of people, is worth more than being liked by hundreds who only know the mask. Your sign's energy right now is preparing you for this transition. It is softening the ground so that when the old patterns fall away, you have somewhere to land. It is bringing the right people closer and gently loosening the grip of the wrong ones. It is creating the conditions for a life that feels authentic instead of performed, connected instead of managed, free instead of controlled. All you have to do is let it happen. All you have to do is stop fighting to maintain a version of yourself that was never the real one. And I know that letting go of the performance feels like free falling. I know it feels like there is no net, but the net is there. It has always been there. It is made up of your own resilience, your own wisdom, your own capacity to rebuild and reimagine and begin again. You have survived every difficult thing life has thrown at you, and you did it while carrying the additional weight of everyone else's emotions on top of your own. Imagine what you are capable of when you set that weight down. Imagine who you become when all of that energy you have been spending on other people is finally redirected toward yourself. That person is not weaker. That person is not less kind. That person is a force. And the world is ready for that force, even if you are not quite sure you are. Everything I have shared with you today comes back to a single realization, and it is one that your sign has been circling for a long time now. You were never meant to live as a reflection of other people's needs. You were never designed to be the mirror that shows everyone else what they want to see while hiding your own face behind the glass. You are a person whole and complex and deserving of the same care you pour into the world around you. And the fact that you have gone this long without fully believing that does not make it less true. It just means you have some catching up to do. The people-pleasing pattern that brought you to this video is not a life sentence. It is a chapter. And chapters end. They end when the character realizes that the story they have been living is not the story they were born to tell. That realization is happening inside of you right now. I can feel it, and more importantly, you can feel it. That stirring, that restlessness, that quiet but undeniable sense that something is shifting. That is not anxiety. That is awakening. That is the real you, the one who has been waiting behind decades of accommodation and compliance, finally pushing toward the surface. Do not push it back down. Do not talk yourself out of this moment. Do not tell yourself that next week would be a better time to change, because it would not be. The energy you feel right now, in this exact moment, is the energy that moves mountains. It is the energy that rewrites histories. It is the energy that turns the page on patterns that have defined you for your entire life and opens a blank one that you get to fill with your own words, your own choices, your own truth. You have been kind to the world. You have been generous beyond measure. You have held people together, held relationships together, held entire families together with nothing but your warmth and your willingness to give. And the world owes you a debt it does not even know exists. But you are not waiting for repayment. You are not asking for recognition. You are asking for something much simpler and much more profound. You are asking for permission to finally, after all this time, be as kind to yourself as you have been to everyone else. And the answer is yes. The answer has always been yes. The only voice that was missing was yours. You have two options after this video. Close it and hope things shift, or decide that the next 21 days will be different. If you choose the second, the structured 21-day transformation aligned with your sign is waiting in the pinned comment. The energy is already moving, the only question is whether you are.